Now, my dear listener, look closely at the world around you. The modern man believes himself to be intelligent, surrounded by devices that speak, numbers that calculate, and networks that promise him endless knowledge. Yet beneath this illusion of brilliance lies a disturbing truth. The mind of man has grown dull, fragmented, and feeble. He is drowning in information, but starving for wisdom. He mistakes movement for progress, and noise for thought. The disease of the modern mind is not ignorance. It is overstimulation. You see, in my time, a man could sit in silence and observe the movements of power, the shifts of fate, the betrayals of allies. But today, silence has become unbearable to the modern creature. He must always be occupied, scrolling, reacting, comparing, consuming. His attention is devoured by every meaningless distraction, leaving no space for reflection, strategy, or mastery. A sharp mind does not form in comfort. It is forged in solitude, discipline, and cunning restraint. Yet the modern world despises such things. It worships instant pleasure, celebrates emotional reaction, and rewards shallow opinions spoken loudly. The rulers of this age are not those who think. They are those who control the attention of those who do not. And so, the crowd lives enslaved by what it sees, never realizing how easily the eyes can be deceived, how easily the heart can be manipulated. You wish to sharpen your mind, to see the world as it truly is. Then first, you must understand what has blunted it. The mind is like a sword. When it cuts through too much noise, it loses its edge. The more the modern man consumes, the less he comprehends. His thoughts are scattered, his focus shattered. He is unable to distinguish between what is urgent and what is important. He reacts to everything and reflects on nothing. And when a man cannot reflect, he cannot rule, not over others and not even over himself. Observe the way people speak today. They speak with confidence, but without depth. They form opinions from fragments, repeating what others have said before them, thinking it their own idea. This is not intellect, this is imitation. The disease of the modern mind breeds arrogance without understanding. Everyone wants to appear wise, but few have the patience to become so. Do you know why rulers throughout history feared thinkers? Because thinkers are dangerous. They do not bow to appearances. They are not controlled by emotion or by noise. They can see the strings behind the puppet show. But in today's world, even the potential thinker is neutralized. He is made addicted, not to substance, but to distraction. His mind is occupied by trivialities, while the machinery of power moves unseen behind the curtain. You must realize, the modern world was not designed to make you powerful. It was designed to keep you busy. The endless flood of images, opinions, and arguments serves one purpose: to ensure you never pause long enough to think. For when a man truly thinks, he begins to question everything. He begins to detach, to observe rather than react, and in that moment, he becomes dangerous, a threat to every system that feeds on his obedience. Most people are not aware they have surrendered their mental sovereignty. They believe they are free because they can choose what to watch, what to believe, what to consume. But all their choices are framed, guided, and shaped by unseen forces. Algorithms, emotions, desires they do not control. A sharp mind must see through this illusion. It must rise above the flood of noise and reclaim the throne of thought. To sharpen your mind is not to add more, it is to remove. Remove what is useless, what is loud, what is empty. The modern mind tries to think about everything and ends up thinking about nothing. It is trapped in a constant state of reaction. When you live in reaction, you become predictable. And when you are predictable, you are weak. The man who controls your attention controls your mind. The man who controls your emotions controls your fate. You must ask yourself, when was the last time you truly chose what to think about? When was the last time your thoughts were your own, not echoes of what the world demanded you think? The truth is unsettling. Most people have never trained their minds. They feed it like a wild animal, allowing it to chase whatever stimulus crosses its path. The result is chaos. A mind too restless to focus, too emotional to reason, too weak to resist manipulation. But remember, the dullness of the modern mind is not a natural curse. It is the result of neglect. A blade left unattended rusts, a mind left untrained dulls. Every time you surrender your focus to distractions, you trade your sovereignty for comfort. Every time you drown in entertainment, you weaken your ability to create. Every time you react emotionally to trivialities, you lose the precision that could have guided your destiny. A sharp mind is a dangerous thing. It does not chase approval, it dissects motives. It does not drown in data, it sees patterns. It does not believe everything it feels, it questions, it calculates, it commands. Such a mind cannot be manipulated, and therefore it cannot be ruled. The tragedy is that the modern world does not want such minds to exist. It wants obedience, not mastery, reaction, not reflection. And so, it gives you endless stimulation, 1,000 things to see, 1,000 opinions to mimic, 1,000 fears to keep you anxious. It is the perfect system to keep your intellect blunt, while convincing you that you are sharper than ever. If you wish to make your mind 200% sharper, you must first confront this disease. You must learn to separate what demands your attention from what deserves it. You must silence the noise, not by running away from the world, but by mastering how you engage with it. The power of your mind does not come from knowing more, but from knowing what to ignore. Now that we have exposed the disease of the modern mind, let us speak of its cure, the cultivation of mental clarity. But understand, this clarity is not gifted, it is conquered. It is not born from peace, but from the ruthless act of detachment. Most people believe clarity means thinking harder. No, clarity means seeing without distortion. And distortion comes not from ignorance, but from emotion, bias, and noise. The mind is a battlefield. Every thought that enters it fights for dominance. Desire pulls you in one direction, fear in another. You are torn between what you want and what you fear to lose. The result is confusion, the enemy of clarity. A mind ruled by emotion cannot see truth. It sees only what it wants to be true. And that is how even the intelligent are deceived. Not by lies from others, but by lies they tell themselves. When I studied rulers, generals, and philosophers, I found one trait in common among those who prevailed. A disciplined mind that could see the world as it is, not as they wished it to be. The Machiavellian mind is cold not because it lacks feeling, but because it refuses to let feeling interfere with judgment. That is the essence of mental clarity, the ability to observe reality unfiltered by emotion. You see, people destroy their clarity the moment they become emotionally involved. They interpret every situation through the lens of attachment. Love, hate, pride, insecurity, all these are distortions. They twist perception, cloud reasoning, and lead you to make choices that serve your impulses rather than your interests. The sharp mind does not allow this. It creates distance between thought and emotion, between observation and interpretation. It looks upon the chaos of life with the eyes of a strategist, calm, calculating, patient. Clarity requires solitude, not because the world is evil, but because the world is loud. Every voice you hear tries to plant its will into your mind, to make you believe, react, or conform. And so, clarity begins when you reclaim your silence. When you turn inward, the fog begins to lift. You start to see patterns, not of chance, but of intention. You begin to understand not only what people say, but why they say it. You start seeing the hidden motives, the unspoken desires, the invisible strings that move human behavior. That is clarity, and once you possess it, you begin to navigate the world with a different kind of intelligence. You no longer chase approval or validation, because you understand how both are used as tools of control. You stop reacting to insult or praise, because you recognize that both are forms of manipulation. The clear mind knows that every word, every gesture, every silence carries intention. Nothing is random. But clarity is not maintained by chance. It demands discipline. The discipline to question, to step back, to restrain reaction. You must learn to pause before you think, and think before you act. This pause is the shield of the sharp mind. It prevents you from being pulled by the immediate and allows you to see the underlying. Most people act in haste and regret in silence. The clear mind acts rarely, but with precision. Consider this: every emotion seeks expression. Anger seeks reaction, pride seeks defense, fear seeks escape. But when you do not act on them, when you simply observe them, you gain something far more valuable than temporary satisfaction. You gain power, because in that moment, you are no longer a servant of your emotions, but the ruler of them. And the man who rules his emotions rules his mind. Mental clarity also means seeing beyond appearances. The world is full of masks, and the clever know how to wear them. Do not be deceived by what is visible. Always look for what is hidden. What is not said often reveals more than what is spoken. The clear mind learns to read silence, to interpret hesitation, to sense weakness beneath confidence. It is not cynicism. It is perception refined by awareness. To see clearly is to see strategically. When you observe without the fog of emotion, you begin to anticipate. You notice patterns of behavior, repetitions of error, and cycles of deception. You begin to predict what others will do before they themselves know it. This foresight is the mark of a sharpened mind. Not mystical, but logical. It is the result of attention uncorrupted by distraction and reason untouched by emotion. Understand this. Clarity is not softness. It is not spiritual calmness or poetic insight. It is ruthless in its precision. It allows you to cut through illusion and strike at truth, even when that truth is uncomfortable. Most people flee from clarity because it strips them of their comforting delusions. They prefer the fog, because in the fog, they can pretend. But you, if you wish to make your mind 200% sharper, must learn to dwell in clarity even when it wounds your pride. For the truth that offends your ego is often the truth that sets your mind free. The path to clarity begins with observation. Watch yourself as you think. Notice how quickly your mind reacts, how easily it judges, how fast it clings to what pleases it. Each time you notice this, detach. Observe the thought without accepting it as truth. This is how you begin to clean the mirror of the mind. And as the mirror clears, reality becomes visible in its raw, unfiltered form. You begin to see cause and effect, manipulation and motive, strength and weakness, all laid bare before you. And once you reach this state, the world changes shape. You no longer feel lost in chaos, because you can see the structure beneath it. You can identify the forces that move men, the desires that control nations, the illusions that drive the masses. You cease to be a participant in confusion. You become the observer, the architect, the strategist. That is the Machiavellian clarity. The kind that does not merely understand the world, but uses that understanding to command it. Now that you begin to see the fog lifting from your mind, let us step into the domain of true mastery. Strategic thinking. The ordinary man thinks merely to survive, the strategist thinks to rule. Most people wander through life reacting to events. They stumble from problem to problem, mistaking motion for direction. The strategist, however, does not react. He anticipates. He observes the forces at play long before they clash, and by doing so, he shapes the outcome before others even recognize the game being played. You must understand that a sharp mind is not one that knows everything, but one that reads everything. People, timing, opportunity, and consequence. Strategy is the art of using limited information to make decisive moves. It is not about control over the external world. It begins with control over one's inner impulses, because a man who cannot master his reactions can never master events. In my writings, I once said that fortune favors the bold, but boldness without calculation is simply madness disguised as courage. Strategic thinking is born from balance, between patience and aggression, logic and instinct, detachment and engagement. It is the dance of opposites within the disciplined mind. You must be patient enough to see, yet ruthless enough to strike when the moment demands it. Observe how the average man operates. He is emotional, impatient, and careless with his decisions. When insulted, he reacts. When afraid, he retreats. When tempted, he submits. Every move he makes is predictable because it is ruled by impulse, and predictability is death to strategy. The sharp mind, however, acts like a hunter in the dark. It waits, watches, calculates. It studies the rhythm of events until it finds the perfect opening. then strikes with precision so silent that the world calls it luck, though it was nothing but preparation. Strategic thinking requires that you see every situation as a map of forces, some visible, some hidden. Every individual around you is motivated by desire, fear, or vanity. Every system operates on unspoken rules. The strategist reads these forces like a chessboard, identifying who controls which pieces, who is blind, who is desperate, and who can be used. This does not make one cruel. It makes one aware. Awareness is not immorality, it is intelligence without illusion. To sharpen your mind strategically, you must also develop the rarest form of intelligence, anticipation. To anticipate is to think forward, to imagine how a situation evolves and where every path leads. This demands not brilliance, but observation. The patterns of human behavior never change, only their costumes do. The same emotions that ruled men centuries ago still govern them today: pride, fear, envy, ambition, desire. Learn to recognize these forces in others, and you will foresee their moves as clearly as if they were already written. The strategist's strength lies not in speed, but in foresight. The modern mind, desperate for instant results, has forgotten this ancient art. It wants answers now, power now, success now. And so it moves blindly, trapped by its own haste. But the Machiavellian thinker is different. He plays the long game. He knows that every move today must serve a purpose tomorrow. He does not waste energy on impulsive battles. He conserves it for decisive victories. Strategic thinking also demands the courage to detach from emotion when logic requires it. Most people lose battles because they confuse feelings with truth. They act from anger and call it strength. They act from desire and call it passion. But emotion clouds perception. When you make decisions under its influence, you become a servant to your own chemistry. The strategist knows this. He feels everything, but acts on nothing until has measured it through reason. Emotion is energy, clarity is direction. One without the other is chaos. To make your mind 200% sharper, you must begin to train it to simulate outcomes. Before you act, visualize the consequences. Ask yourself, who gains, who loses, who reacts, who resists? A mind that can foresee the chain reaction of its own actions holds an enormous power. It ceases to live by chance and begins to live by design. Life itself becomes a battlefield of controlled probabilities. In this game, patience is not weakness. It is strategy in disguise. Every great conqueror, every master manipulator, every ruler understood this truth. Those who appear still are often the ones preparing the deadliest moves. Impatience exposes intent, and intent makes you vulnerable. When you rush, you reveal your hand. The sharp mind conceals its strategy behind silence, ambiguity, or even deliberate confusion. To outthink others, sometimes you must let them believe you are not thinking at all. And yet, strategy is not only about manipulating others. It is about structuring your own thoughts into a weapon. You must learn to organize your ideas the way a general arranges his troops. Separate what is emotional from what is factual, what is urgent from what is essential. Do not allow chaos inside your head, turn it into formation. Every thought must serve a purpose. If it does not, discard it. The sharp mind wastes nothing, not even its silence. But perhaps the most subtle element of strategic thinking lies in perception. The art of appearing one way while being another. This is not deception for vanity's sake, it is protection. The strategist reveals only what strengthens his position and hides what would weaken it. He knows that to be understood too clearly is to become predictable. And when you are predictable, you become vulnerable. Therefore, every master thinker wears a mask, not to deceive the world maliciously, but to guard the sanctity of his mind. You must learn to think in layers. The surface thought, what is said, what is seen, what is done, is for the public. Beneath it, hidden, lies the true calculation. When others see you pause, they think you hesitate. In truth, you analyze. When they think you surrender, you are gathering strength. When they think you are calm, you are measuring their weaknesses. This layered thinking is the foundation of strategic intellect. The world rewards those who can think ahead of the moment. Every opportunity that appears sudden was prepared long before. Every coincidence that favors the powerful was engineered by unseen calculation. To sharpen your mind is to step behind the curtain and become one of those who pull the strings, not one of those who dance on them. And this, my listener, is the difference between a reactive mind and a strategic one, between a participant in life and the one who quietly directs its course. Now, we come to the most difficult and yet the most decisive part of mental mastery: the ruthless practice of inner discipline. The sharpest mind, without discipline, collapses under its own weight. Intelligence alone cannot conquer chaos, it must be governed by control. The mind, if left unattended, becomes like an untrained army, powerful in potential, disastrous in execution. Discipline is what turns intellect into weaponry, focus into precision, and thought into domination. Every empire first began within the walls of a disciplined mind. Before one can command others, one must first command oneself. Yet this is where most people fail. They desire power, but not the patience required to earn it. They want clarity, but refuse the silence necessary to build it. They dream of strength, but cannot resist the weakness of their impulses. And so, they remain trapped, not by external chains, but by their own lack of inner order. Discipline begins with control over one's attention. In this world of endless distraction, to control your attention is to possess a rare and dangerous power. The average person's focus is hijacked every few seconds, by noise, by vanity, by fleeting pleasure. They call it multitasking, but it is merely mental fragmentation. The disciplined mind, however, directs its focus with intention, as a sculptor guides his chisel. It chooses what to give its energy to and what to ignore. And in this act of selection, power is born. You must learn to treat your focus as a kingdom, guarded, sacred, and impenetrable. Do not allow every trivial thing to enter it. Each distraction you permit is a thief stealing fragments of your strength. Each impulse you indulge is a crack in the fortress of your mind. The disciplined individual stands apart because he can resist what others cannot. He does not chase stimulation, he commands it. He decides when to act, when to rest, and when to observe. Such a person cannot be easily swayed because his center is immovable. But discipline extends beyond attention. It demands mastery over desire. The world tempts you constantly to consume, to compare, to surrender to comfort. The masses follow their appetites like cattle led by invisible hands. They are ruled by the need for pleasure, mistaking indulgence for freedom. Yet, true power comes not from having what you want, but from being able to deny it. Each act of restraint sharpens your will, strengthens your command, and refines your sense of purpose. To rule the world outside, you must first prove you can rule the chaos within. Understand that discipline is not a punishment, it is a purification. It burns away weakness the way fire purifies gold. It strips you of illusions, exposes your limits, and demands that you overcome them. The undisciplined mind seeks comfort, the disciplined one seeks strength. Comfort dulls the mind, struggle sharpens it. That is why those who live too easily rarely think deeply. Pain, challenge, and restraint. These are the whetstones that grind the mind into sharpness. Every day presents a test, not from others, but from yourself. The temptation to delay, to indulge, to surrender to distraction. The battle for discipline is silent and invisible, fought within the corridors of thought. No one will see your victories, but they will feel their results. Every time you resist, you grow stronger. Every time you conquer an impulse, you forge the invisible armor of willpower. The great mistake of the weak is to believe discipline requires motivation. No, motivation is fleeting. Discipline survives without emotion. It is the ability to act even when you feel nothing, to continue when your mind demands retreat. A disciplined mind also controls its speech. Words are power, but power, when wasted, weakens its source. Most people speak too much and think too little. They reveal their intentions, expose their weaknesses, and confuse movement for meaning. The disciplined thinker speaks with precision, not abundance. Silence, for him, is not emptiness. It is strategy. He listens more than he speaks, and when he does speak, his words strike with the weight of conviction. Control of speech reflects control of thought. Self-discipline also demands consistency. You cannot become sharp by occasional effort. You cannot think clearly one day and expect mastery forever. The mind, like the body, decays when neglected. Every day must contain an act of self-command, rising when you wish to sleep longer, focusing when your mind resists, remaining calm when your emotions surge. Repetition forges identity. What you repeatedly endure, you eventually become. But beware. Discipline without direction becomes rigidity. True inner discipline is not about suppressing your humanity. It is about mastering its expression. You must not kill your emotions, you must train them. Anger can serve strategy, desire can fuel ambition, fear can sharpen caution. The disciplined mind does not destroy emotion. It harnesses it, bends it toward purpose, transforms it from a master into a servant. Most men think freedom means doing whatever they wish. In truth, that is slavery to impulse. Real freedom begins when you can choose your own chains. When your habits, your routines, your very thoughts serve your higher intention rather than fight against it. Discipline is not restriction, it is liberation from chaos. It transforms your mind into an instrument of precision, clean, sharp, and obedient to your will. Remember, inner discipline is not built in a single act of defiance, but in countless small victories over yourself. Each time you resist distraction, delay gratification, or silence emotion, you sharpen the blade of your mind. Over time, it becomes unbreakable, a tool that cuts through confusion, fear, and temptation alike. The world outside is uncontrollable, chaotic, and filled with uncertainty. But the world within, your thoughts, emotions, and habits, can be governed by law, your law. The man who achieves this rule becomes untouchable. No praise seduces him, no insult provokes him, no failure breaks him. He acts not according to chance, but according to design. His mind, once his greatest enemy, becomes his most loyal weapon, and through discipline, quiet, relentless, merciless discipline, he rises above those still enslaved by their own impulses. Now you understand, my listener, the path to a mind that is 200% sharper is not paved with comfort or convenience. It is carved through awareness, control, and ruthless self-mastery. You have seen the disease that weakens the modern intellect. The endless noise, the emotional enslavement, the addiction to distraction. You have learned that clarity begins not with more information, but with detachment. With the cold, deliberate act of seeing the world as it truly is, stripped of illusion and sentiment. You have entered the realm of strategy, where thought becomes a weapon and foresight becomes your shield. And finally, you have grasped the heart of all mastery. Discipline, the law of the inner kingdom, the silent command that governs all power. The weak mind serves the world. The sharp mind shapes it. Most will never see beyond reaction and emotion, forever prisoners of their own noise. But you, if you choose this path, can rise above them. You can learn to think with precision, act with patience, and command yourself with the same authority that great rulers once commanded nations. The modern age rewards the distracted, but it secretly fears the disciplined. Because a man who can control his mind cannot be controlled by the world. Let others live in the fog of emotion, drowning in the illusions of ease. You must remain apart, silent, observant, deliberate. Let your calmness be your strength, your patience your strategy, and your clarity your weapon. For in a world that worships confusion, the one who sees clearly will always appear godlike. And so, sharpen your mind until it cuts through deception. Guard your attention as you would guard a crown. Think like a ruler, not a subject. Act not from impulse, but from design. The world will test you, tempt you, and try to dull you. But the mind that masters itself will always remain untouchable. The sharper your mind becomes, the fewer illusions you can tolerate. And that is the price of power. For once you see clearly, you can never return to blindness.